What's up guys, welcome back to TK Talks Pokemon. Today we're going to be conducting a set review for the Mask of Change Japanese set that you guys might know as the English set Twilight Masquerade. And of course, at the end of the episode, I'm going to be opening up a pack of these. As you guys may know already, having watched the other episodes, I picked up a couple of packs each of pretty much every set I could get my hand on in the Kyoto Pokemon Center. Unfortunately, the second time I visited, they didn't have any Mask of Change available. So I've just got the one pack, which means I need extra luck to try and get a hit. This video will probably be released in a few weeks' time, but in terms of time of recording, it is May the 4th today, and there was some news on Pokebeach, I think yesterday or potentially the day before, hinting at the black and white set that's coming. I think the name might be Black Bolt and White Flare, obviously linking to Zekrom and Reshiram. Not 100% on the name, but I think that's it. There's been an amazing bit of news leaked on Pokebeach, which is that for every single Pokemon we get in the set, all 156 Unova region Pokemon, we will be getting an art rare, which is absolutely incredible news. I imagine there will be some that are high priced and quite coveted, the really popular Pokemon, but if you've got an obscure favourite from the Unova region, which I know many people do, that hasn't necessarily had a cool artwork or an illustration or art rare produced for it during the Scarlet Violet era, now could be a really good chance to pick up a beautiful, well-priced card. When I hear more news on it, when the full set gets released, I'll probably make a video on it, so stay tuned for that. For me, I find it really hard to state what my favourite generation is. There's nostalgia factor, the coolness of the Pokemon introduced, the fun I had with the gameplay, but I must say Black and White and Black and White 2. I think I had White and then Black 2 because I was a big Zekrom guy over Reshiram, although I do think Reshiram's really cool. It was some of the best Pokemon games I've ever played, and I have really warm memories of the 156 Pokemon introduced. I think this was where the designs were probably at their best for Pokemon, so we're hopefully going to get some really cool cards. But anyway, that's enough about a set that hasn't even been released yet. Let's stick to a set that's already been released and talk about Mask of Change. We're going to get straight in with the Luxray EX, and what I particularly like about this card is it reminds me of what I think is from SpongeBob, where he says, "And he's standing there, menacingly." It's just got an amazing pose to him. The other comment I wanted to make about this card, which I don't know whether you guys agree with me, is I think in this one Luxray looks more like he's from the future than some of the Paradox Pokemon do. Anyway, moving on to the Volbeat and the Illumise commons. When these two Pokemon were released, I fell in love with their designs, and I really wished that they were stronger in battle so I could justify putting them into my team. The connected artwork that the two cards share is really pretty, and I kind of wish we had these as art rares. I love the contrast of the expressions. I love the raw, excited expression of the Volbeat, and then the coy, playful, kind of shy, kind of flirtatious expression on the Illumise. It really captures that scene of a moonlight frolic with someone that you're courting. Next, we've got Darumaka. This little guy is a real favourite of mine. I find the Daruma design so synonymous with Japan, has such a romanticism to it, and brings back so many warm memories of my visits there. I think in this artwork he looks really Ghibli-like, that I love. He could fit right into something like Ponyo. And I also think the background is very Howl's Moving Castle. So I think Miyazaki would be a fan of this card. I actually bought a really cool reversible travel pillow that's a Daruma from Japan on our most recent visit. I'll go grab it and show it to you. I didn't manage to sleep at all on the 15-hour flight back from Tokyo to London, so having this guy to fiddle with and just continually turn inside out was really fun. I think you can pick these up from a lot of kind of touristy souvenir spots in Japan, and it cost me maybe 12-15 quid. So if you spot one, grab one, because it was also very comfortable as well as being cool. And, little hack for you if you do pick one up, it's kind of smushy, but a bit more like memory foam in that it has a bit of structural integrity and kind of pushes back. So you can push your phone into it and push the back of it against the chair in front of you with your fold-out table folded out, and then you can just rest your phone on there. So I downloaded about 20 episodes of Bleach and watched loads of that on the way home. Then we've got the Poliwag, another super cute Pokemon. This one reminds me of the Greek story of Narcissus, in love with his reflection, but destined never to meet him. A tragic story, and I love that they decided to put Poliwag in this kind of scene. Very cool card. The Litwick card makes me panic to look at. I've had a long-standing thing, I think it started with Charmander, this idea that if a fire Pokemon who has fire on their body is doused and the fire is put out, that they might die, a bit like Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. So when I look at this card, all I'm thinking is just get away from the water. Speaking of water, we've got the Goldeen common. I think this background, with the fireworks popping off in the background and when looking at the surface of the water, would really pop off on an art rare or an illustration rare. Particularly, and I'm sorry to Goldeen for saying this, with a cooler Pokemon. A concept for a card that I think would be really cool, taking this idea, would be having the Volt Tacklers, the crew from the Horizon series. Not sure if you've seen it. If you haven't, go watch it. It's very, very good. Having them on their airship, watching the fireworks, Captain Pikachu, the Charizard, all the gang together, watching that, I think could make a really, really beautiful trainer card, perhaps. Next, we've got the Jinx. I've heard so many people over the years say that Jinx has a cursed design. I don't agree with them, and I think in this card, she looks like Jennifer Coolidge, who is super iconic, so I like this card a lot. What I love about the Snorunt is how pleased he looks with himself. And it's really nice to see him not having a panicked expression and looking kind of in pain like he does in a lot of the games. And then we've got the Abra, which fills me with rage. I feel enraged just looking at it, and I'll tell you why. It causes terrible childhood memories to resurface, searching for what felt like at times days through the long grass, looking for an Abra, and finally getting an encounter, knowing that I had one turn before teleport, throwing the Hail Mary Pokeball, or a Great Ball if I was lucky. You get the wiggle, and then, oh no, it's been released, instant teleport, and the cycle repeats itself. Do not mistake the expression on Abra's face in this card for serenity and tranquility. It is pure smugness. If I got this card just to get my vengeance, I wouldn't bin it, because I would never bin a Pokemon card, but I would put it in the darkest recesses of a dusty cupboard, never to see a binder, and never to see the light of day again. Next, we've got the Pheasantipede, and I think in this card, it looks a lot like the misbegotten offspring of a Ho-Oh and a Lugia. I don't know who decided to make a Pokemon whose design is based on a pheasant so cool, but I'm here for it. Awesome posing, very cool card. Then we've got Venipede, who's snuck his way into Arctibax's dimension from the Snow Hazard set. I do wish we had the same continuity here as we did with the Frigibax, the Arctibax and the Baxcalibur. It would be really cool to have placed Scolipede, who I think is one of the coolest bug types of all time, in that wacky dimension. Then we've got another very cool card artwork in the Heatran. I think in this card, Heatran looks a lot like Kaiju meets Eldritch Horror. I really wish they'd given us an illustration rare here. As you guys know, I really love when Pokemon leans into the kind of terrible and monstrous capability that some of these massive Pokemon have. I like the cute style, but I think with some Pokemon like this, like your Groudons and your Kyogres, that are just massive, especially the ones that have a nature element, like Heatran is lava and magma, this powerful, destructive, natural force. It's really cool to see them go for the fear factor. In my opinion, I think what could make these designs even better is having a terrified looking, insignificantly small trainer in the corner just to give some scale. I think there's a Lugia card that costs an absolute bomb that has this kind of thing. I think there might also be a Gyarados card. If there's not, there should be. But I absolutely love when they show scale of these massive Pokemon. Then we've got the Blissey EX. Now, as you guys probably know, I'm not always that keen on this kind of EX design. I think they're often just a little bit lackluster and they're just nowhere near as cool as the art rares and the illustration rares. However, I think the hollow pattern on this one is really beautiful. I've seen it in real life and it's visually stunning. And I just like the idea of somebody getting hit by a high velocity egg. We've got to give a quick mention to the performance flute, which did make me chuckle when I looked at it. The name was phallic enough, but look at those tassels. Come on, Pokemon. I know there's someone on the Pokemon design team who was chuckling to themselves when they made that. On to the rares, the bit that everybody gets excited for, and we're going to start with Sunflora. It's a really joyful looking card. Sunflowers for me bring back beautiful memories of carefree summers, going out as soon as I could, as soon as I'd had breakfast, with nothing but my bike and a bit of water and some money for a couple of snacks and a football, meeting up with friends, cycling about, causing a little bit of trouble, having fun in the sun, and then coming home in time for tea. So there's a real nostalgia factor for me when I look at this card, and I'm sure for a lot of other people too. I really love the subtle break in the uniformity and homogeneity of the image where two of the Sunflora are turned to each other to smile. I think that's really charming. And if you have watched Horizons, it reminds me of that episode with Brassius. I won't give any spoilers, but I really like that too. I always love a nod to the games or the series. And then we've got Driplin. Driplin reminds me of the Vanillish card that we talked about in one of the previous videos, in that it's all cute, until you realise that this Pokemon has been enslaved by a man who sells inanimate effigies of the Pokemon to a crowd baying for blood who eat them in front of the Pokemon. That aside, it's a fun card with gorgeous artwork that I think would go really well if you were trying to build a binder of these Pokemon in real life settings, slice of life type vibe. Frostlass next. A design that I have always thought was really cool, but in my ignorance never thought about it as wearing kimono before. I always thought of Frostlass as being kind of enshrouded in robes, but just didn't think of it like that. I think Frostlass's slightly anthropomorphic figure gives this uncanny valley quality to the design that makes her just a little bit more creepy. However, oddly, partly due to the setting and the colour scheme, she reminds me of Fujisan, who pops up in the Shogun series. If you haven't seen that, it's absolutely excellent. Watch it and I think you'll know what I mean. For me, Fujisan in the Shogun TV show was an incredibly moving, admirable character. So the fact that Frostlass reminds me of her is one reason why I would really like this card, other than the fact that it's just a really cool artwork. Then we have Munkidori, who, as you guys may have known if you've watched other videos, I'm not the biggest fan of in terms of design. I think the perverted expression lumped onto an aubergine-shaped furry body, that was a mouthful, is not the best design. However, I do think this card is very pretty. But in terms of the 8 Pokemon, this guy just can't hang with Ambipom and of course the iconic Infernape. And now we've got Pheasantipede. And when I was doing my notes for this video, I had to go and take a snack break with this one because I knew I would have so much to say about it. I knew I needed to get my energy reserves nice and high in order to talk about the illustrious, decadent beauty of this card. The colour profile on this is gorgeous. It reminds me of licorice all sorts, some sweets that my mum used to eat growing up. The mountain in the background reminds me of the Hallelujah Mountains that pop up in Avatar, which is one of my favourite films. And Pheasantipede actually reminds me a little bit of the bird-like reptile that Jake Sully rides, the Ikran, in the film. The radiant quality of the rays of light in this card give it a divine feel. It makes Pheasantipede feel like a legendary Pokemon. I think this artwork is absolutely stunning. I've had the pleasure of seeing it in person and it was very difficult to restrain myself and not buy it. If you're looking at it, I don't think you'll be disappointed if you grab it for yourself. Then we've got Timber, who I think would go perfectly in a binder with the construction site Steelix. The thing I love most about this card is a small detail. It's actually the girder in the background watching on. To me, it captures that old hand, new apprentice dynamic that's so synonymous with building sites and tradies in the UK. I really like the worried expression of the human below, which I can imagine happens every time the apprentice tries to do something that everyone can see going wrong or might be a little bit above what he has the ability to do at that current moment in time. And then we've got Okie Dokie, which again, like the Monkey Dory, I have said in previous videos, I am not super keen on the design of. However, I'm going to eat my words again when it comes to this card. I think this card is really cool. To me here, he's got an Elder Scrolls Orc-like quality to him. I like the display of power. He's not just smashing stuff up, he's literally causing rock to splinter. As I said earlier with the Heatran, I really love when we get a clear display of a Pokemon's destructive capabilities. And then we've got the Lairon, which I'm not going to say too much on. I love Lairon, I love the whole Aggron, Aron, Lairon line. Aggron was a Pokemon that I always wanted in my team in the early games, but I don't think this card really does Lairon justice. I think it's kind of lackluster from a design perspective. Next, we've got the Tatsugiri. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I reckon we all probably love this card. It feels like modern art, but not the shit pretentious stuff that you see in some art galleries. I personally find that it's all subjective, you just don't know enough about Art Brigade, slightly nauseating and very boring. Stop fence sitting with your thinly veiled superiority complex. I want to live in a world where we can say that something is objectively crap. Judgment is an important faculty for a human being. Okay, rant over. And anyway, in the case of Tatsugiri, I think it's the opposite end of the spectrum. I think it's an artwork that we can all admit is objectively cool. For me, what's impressive is the amount of personality that each individual Tatsugiri in this card has, despite not even having a mouth, just eyes to look at. The colours pop beautifully. This is a gorgeous, eye-catching card. I think this is the kind of card where someone who isn't even bothered about Pokemon, doesn't know anything about Pokemon, isn't interested in Pokemon, would see in a store and go, ooh, I really like that. I can even imagine this card blown up on a canvas, and I think it would look really cool in somebody's modern home. A real triumph of design, and I would be so happy if later in this video I rip that pack open and it's got the Tatsugiri inside. Then we've got the Chansey, which would be cute as hell anyway, but that little bell sprout is just to die for. With the Chansey dropping the stack of things on the floor, I like to think that this snapshot of the scene is seconds away from that classic US coming of age / rom-com scene where the hot guy comes in and makes eye contact with the Chansey and they just fall in love. Moving on to the Ogerpon Mask cards, which I'm going to lump together. I'm a little bit torn on these. At first glance, they weren't my cup of tea personally. I will concede that I reckon the holo patterns, particularly in Japanese, are really pretty and interesting when you take the card out to look at it properly. Plus, I do like that upon close inspection, you can actually see Ogerpon looking very cute in the corner of the cards. I'm sure some people love them. I don't. But that is the beauty of Pokemon. There is something for everyone. And I know there are cards that everybody loves and they get super duper expensive. But one of the things I like is that as time moves on and more cards are printed, the likelihood of your obscure favourite getting a cool card increases, and it means that people can pick up cards that they really love for cheap prices, which I think is fantastic. My favourite of the lot is probably number 119, the Cornerstone. I think that's the coolest of the lot in this set. Now let's talk about the gorgeous Dragapult EX. I'm not always a fan of these kinds of cards, especially when there's terrestrialization involved. Thank God we're getting Mega Evolution back in the next game, by the way. And I'm not talking about a gameplay perspective, because I think terrestrialization was very cool and very interesting for gameplay, particularly people who are used to the games, you know everything that's super effective against this, that and the other. It added another dimension that was cool. But from a Pokemon design perspective, I'm glad we're getting Mega Evolution back, because I think the Megas objectively look a lot cooler than the terrestrialized Pokemon do, in cards and in game. I love Dragapult and I love the holo pattern on this card. Also, I hear this guy is good in comp, although I'm not really into playing the game, so by the time the information has reached me, and now I'm giving it to you, it's probably outdated, so don't quote me on that. Then we've got the Blissey EX, number 121. Not my cup of tea, but I can see why people would be into this. I know a lot of people collect these cutesy stars of Pokemon, and this card is very cute. And that marks the end of the Mask of Change set. If there's any Pokemon I didn't talk about, any cards that you'd like to hear my opinion on from this set, drop a comment below and I'll get back to you. Now, let's get into the bit that you've probably all been waiting for and rip this card and see if we can get something cool. For those of you who didn't get a good look at it and you've not seen it before, that's what it looks like. And I didn't notice this at first, but you've got the very sweet little Ogerpon in the corner. Is that going to focus? Yeah, there it is. Looking super cute. Okay. Is that going to focus? Starting with the Swanna. And then we've got the Sandygast in Crochet style, which I think is really cool. Then we've got the Ducklet. The Volby, looking super excited, who I talked about earlier in the video. And wow! I think that's the Kilowattrel. We didn't talk about this, but as you can see, a beautiful hollow pattern. I love this scene of them diving into the water, probably hunting some fish Pokemon to eat. And those electro wings really, really pop in real life. My first art rare of all the videos I've made so far. Super happy with that. Woohoo! What's up, people? Just wanted to take a moment to correct myself. It's not the Kilowattrel, it's the Wattrel. And I'm actually really happy with this card because if anybody's seen Horizons, there's a really beautiful moment between the male character in that when he catches the Wattrel. If you've not seen it, go watch it. It's really heartwarming. So that's an extra reason why I'm really happy with this full art card. Before I let you go, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's watched this video and give you a little hint on what's to come in the next one. We are going to be talking about the Stellar Miracle set, which is going to be a whole lot of fun. I can't wait to run through it with you guys. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment and subscribe. It really helps me to keep making the content. See you in the next one. Peace!